against any melee carry that chases. And if you get him late game, the game is over. Yeah. And if you get any early game advantage at all, and the guy's able to pick up maybe a Radiance or even like a Diffusal Blade Manta, it's so hard to deal with. For almost all carries, even like a lone Druid has a lot of trouble with this style because Spectre is so naturally tanky.
Yeah, Rattlesnake themselves actually picked Spectre in one of their games, so it's a hero I definitely think we'll see in at least one, probably multiple games in this series, especially with some of the heroes that are likely to be banned. Darkseer, for both these two teams, has been so popular. Yep. I don't see Darkseer slipping through many of these games. Lifesteal is almost a guaranteed ban. And then you've got heroes like Visage, maybe even banned. Shadow Demon's actually, I had him on my compendium as most picked, but he's been banned a good 10 or so times throughout this tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more than that. I feel like he's barely shown in the Eastern qualifiers at all. He's played in the Western a lot. Yes. But I feel like the real support hero that's been dominating is Visage. That's a guy that has barely been played. It's been kind of occasionally ever since his release in Dota 2, but kind of really getting thrown in headfirst in these tournaments just because of how powerful he is in a tri lane with his nuke damage. Grave Chill is pretty good. And of course, with top tier pros, Bat Micro becomes much less of an issue, and you can really abuse those things with ganks or even just chain stunning people that are trying to flee or team fight.
Yeah, it's actually a great point. Speaking of some of these things, we'll actually run through a couple of the stats on the compendium. As far as most picked heroes, Darkseer after yesterday's matches just edged out Visage. So Visage
is that close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Darkseer 24 times picked, Visage 23. I think it's actually going to change because I think Darkseer is more likely to be banned than Visage in this series.
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely. Darkseer does open up a lot of possibilities for offlane. Vacuum Wall is always really good, and if we're expecting to draft a Spectre, if they want to draft a Spectre, they're more likely to say, I don't want to deal with Darkseer because I don't want to have to give an illusion to myself.
Yeah, and as far as most bans, we have Lifesteal as well as Batrider, the two most banned. Lifesteal with 32, Bat with 30. No surprises really there. Something interesting, not a compendium stat, but if we look at the hero with the most kills in this tournament, it's Visage, and Visage by a long shot. Visage has 133 total kills. Wow. The second highest is Queen of Pain with 93.
Now, that's not too surprising to me for the fact that not only is he picked a lot, but he has the best kill-stealing ability in the game. It doesn't do good damage until damage is already done, so at that point, if you're in a tri-lane, you throw out the 200 damage nuke as soon as you get 3 souls, or ideally for the last hit, and a lot of kills there. I've seen so many Visages this tournament on support who are like 13, 2, and 15. Yeah. It's crazy. It's like they're playing carries. I can't believe they die so little and contribute so much. It's really impressive.
Visage is, looking at his stats this tournament, he's 17 wins and 6 losses, so I think that's something which, that'll add to the fact that he's getting a lot of kills, because obviously if Visage had a losing record, he'd be getting a lot less kills, but it's been a very successful hero, something we definitely look to seeing here. Most deaths, it goes to the Darkseer, but I feel like that goes back to Darkseer being one of the most picked heroes. It's the two are kind of connected somewhat there. Most First Bloods, Visage, no surprises there. Visage is, I don't think a single person out there has predicted on their compendium that Visage would be the most picked hero.
There's some guy in his room right now is so happy. Oh. I hope he gets like extra points because he was like one of the few. I feel like he should just win the whole thing. If somebody like predicts Visage, like
right when it closed, like it was funny because right when the compendium prediction closed was like right after, like a day or two after we saw the first Visage picks coming out from the Eastern teams at least. There was none before then at all. So it was something really hard to predict.
I do want to mention one potentially interesting thing is that Visage was actually 13-2 in his first 15 games, and since then he's 3-5 just over the past few days. So it seems like maybe teams are figuring out how to deal with this hero as well as he was doing early on. He's definitely slowed down.
Yep. Well, back to the compendium. Thanks, LD, for chiming in there.
Lumi left me hanging. What could I say?
I thought Lumi was going to have some smart. If it was AUI, he would have just praised Visage.
Didn't you read his face? He was like, yeah, I completely agree. You're a genius, LD. That's what I got out of it. I think he did it.
I don't need to say anything.
Yeah, man.
Well, something some people will be a bit upset by is the 800 GPM mark has not been breached.
Really?
It was, but it wasn't. The GG was called. Alchemist had 790. By the time the game ended, he'd gone over 800.
790. Is that going to count?
No. Apparently not. Apparently it's where the GG gets called. So by the time the game ended, it was back in Rising Stars match against Myth Trust with an Alchemist, but he didn't quite make it.
I'm okay with that because I bet against that. I don't think it's... I bet for it on West. Accomplished. Thank you, Sakshka's Tiny, I believe.
Yes.
Not the hero we expected.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I did not expect any heroes here in the East to do so. Zhao Tuji almost proved us wrong. And as far as other things, we've only had one comeback so far.
Just one?
Yeah, and that was actually back with the two Southeast Asian teams. Myth Trust, game 1 against Mineski, they were behind, they came back. All the other matches have gone to the team with the early game lead.
I almost don't want to tell people that statistic because it kind of ruins matches a bit. You say, that's how hard it is to come back in Dota games. 10,000 gold advantage, and it was something like, I believe there's a West stat on the Western Qualifier from the Good Studio. It was like 95% of teams lose when they're behind by There's just so many stats against it. If you're moderately behind, it's really tough to come back against good teams. It does make it more hype when it happens, but man, that's pretty impressive.
It's really rare. And it's something which I think the teams, because of how important this tournament is, I mean, you're competing for a shot at $2.2 million.
Yep.
Once you get ahead, they're playing ultra safe. It's not like your normal online tournament. You get a lead, you play that slow. So many games are going 40 to 50 minutes when normally they'd end in 30 minutes because of how safe teams are playing. Speaking of which, we've only actually had one game over 60 minutes, I believe, somewhere written down.
We have to hit 3, correct?
We have to hit 3. We've had 1. So we're not doing too well there, but this is a grand finals, a best of 5, so I think that could easily change. We need 2 more. I think there's still a decent shot at getting that. 44 unpicked, untouched heroes, which is quite a big number. I think the West had a lot less for that.
Really?
I think they were down to like 36 or so.
Well, there's still 1 day left, but picks have been kind of consistent the last few days. Have there even been that many weird heroes?
A couple new heroes yesterday, I think. We had a Venomancer.
That's right. I think was casted that game, the Venomancer.
Slark, yep.
Okay.
We also have had an Omni Knight, which I think was quite recent.
That's right. That was like 2 nights ago.
I think Omni Knight may have been picked by one of the Filipino teams.
Was he played twice?
That was DK in the G1 League, I believe.
Oh, that's
Super
right.
was playing it, and a lot of people were face-palming afterwards.
They picked CK West, and they're like, let's get a DK mid, but there was no plan for it.
I'm getting my tournaments mixed up. But we had a few new heroes yesterday. I definitely recall that.
Yeah, Venomancer being one. A support that hasn't been played in months.
Actually, I want to call a little bit about the comeback real fast. I mean, the game that LG lost against the Wisp TA, I was calling the comeback when they were down by 1,200 gold, and I think LD wasn't convinced, and I still was calling comeback down when they're down by 15,000 gold or something like that. I think Spectre is a hero that could really give you those comebacks, and both teams use Spectre a ton, so it could be done here.
He's actually a hero that doesn't really get banned ever in the first stage.
Right.
Very unusual for that to happen, but maybe today is that day where you lose a game to Spectre, you say, we're not going to let you have that get-out-of-jail-free late-game card.
Yep.
All right, well, last couple of stats here. We've had 2 refreshes so far, only 1 Divine Rapier, and the biggest crit, a lot higher than I expected, was 1,700 to 1,800. There was a PA pick, as we mentioned, Wisp PA, and PA had a double damage room at some point. So,
did he really?
Yeah.
What did the chart even go up to? I know it started like... And there was like 500s or 200s up to like
2,500 or something.
25k. That's relatively close to the top. If you just got like a rapier on top of that and got lucky, would have been.
My prediction was like 600, 700.
I think I did like 1,000.
Because I'm like, I didn't expect a PA pick. I think I didn't even expect many heroes to be picked that went Daedalus. I guess maybe at some point because of how many games there'll be.
Yeah.
But I did not.
Somebody tells me Rising Stars were watching the G1 LAN finals.
Yeah. Absolutely. As far as your other miscellaneous stats, we haven't had a game end before 18 minutes. The closest was a 22-minute game. We've had no level 1 Roches, and we have not had a tower killed before before 2 minutes in.
Yeah.
No surprises there. Maybe we see a level 1 Roche in the grand finals, but very unlikely.
Yeah, at the Western qualifiers, we were watching a game one of the mornings, and there was a really fast tower push. And it was actually like 2:30 or something like that when they started the push. And I didn't quite realize just how early before 2 minutes is. That's like the first wave, and you're going at it with like Venomancer and Enchantress. You really have to do it insanely fast.
I think that they set it really low just to make it something fairly unlikely. Because the only way it seems to be able to do it is to go like Enchantress, creep skipping, super early creeps. It just seems something very, very hard to do. So that's your compendium update. Hopefully you guys are doing okay out there. As far as teams, a lot of people obviously didn't expect Rattlesnake to get into the grand finals, but they're here. They're here in the best of 5 for LGD to play in TI3. Loser if it plays against DD, so even then you've got, in theory, at least a 50-50 chance of competing in the International 3, which is going to take place in about 2 months' time. So let's get into things. Let's actually introduce our 2 teams. We'll have our matchup between Rattlesnake and LGD Time. We're going to introduce Team Rattlesnake, the boys in purple. I'm no longer wearing my purple Twitch hoodie because I had to dress up. It's sad.
What's up with that?
I was cheering for these guys.
Can't you just wear it on top? Come on.
I think I would ruin my swag cred.
Maybe it would. I guess so.
Shout out to Lumi. We do have on the purple side the Rattlesnake Gaming Squad, the team who somewhat upset Vici Gaming yesterday. We've got IC, their main carry player. We've got your 2-position solo mid player, Luo, who's sort of... He plays a jack of all trades as far as heroes goes. Alchemist, Darkseer, absolutely everything. Moving on, we have our off-lane player. I say off-lane player, but this guy has played solo mid, he's played off-lane, he's played support Enchantress. He also played Tiny back in the International 2 for eHome. It's Lan M. Then we have Kabu, the clockwork extraordinaire, often playing a support role. Not always the case, depending on what their heroes pick. And that's the other reason why Rattlesnake is so hard to figure out, because they switch up their roles, they switch up their heroes so much. One thing that is consistent, so stable with this team, is Sag, Hart, M, playing that hard support role and playing it pretty damn well. Overall, this hero, the one thing, this team, the one thing always to talk about is the drafting. We give them a 9, but it's very creative, it's very hard to predict. That's really where, to me, their strength lies.
Yeah, and that they can take good games off of awesome teams as well by throwing weird heroes into the pool. We've seen a couple games like that, and I just hope they do some more variety, because they're definitely going to need something a little weird to deal with LGD China.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of LGD China, let's introduce those guys, Kevin. It's all yours.
All right, so we've got Siler playing the hard carry for them. Excellent player, awesome at farming, does a great job. Typical hard carries that we'll see. Most likely a lone druid. I really like his druid. He has some awesome plays, and also very good in a 1v1 matchup. Their mid role, previously Zhao 8 has been midding for them since at least TI2, but they changed things up a little bit as they brought on Long DD. But now that they've shifted the roster back, he's actually playing their mid again, and he's absolutely fantastic mid. If you guys want to learn how to play the solo mid role and how to gank really effectively, this guy's the guy to watch. Their third player is going to be Yao, playing their offlane roles. He's been doing some great Magnus. If Zhao 8 isn't going on the mid role, it's often him. He played some of the mid role for them, but excellent team fight coordination with him as well. And our fourth role, it's going to be DDC. This is their, not the person that was added back on, but has excellent jungling heroes and great secondary support as well. And DD coming back for Team LGD. This is the guy that cost them their TI3 their spot, yeah. But he is really good. Like, yeah. Honestly, he is so good at support that I think it's worth it to play through the qualifiers to have him, honestly.
He's been playing fantastic this qualifier as well. I think, if anything, with LGD, the support play's been fantastic. The few games where they struggled is sometimes a game against Vici Gaming where it was the CTY clockwork against the Yao Mag at mid and CTY won the lane. Like, the matchups and times they've lost has sometimes come down to the solo play. Even... yeah. Looking back at G1 League, it wasn't really the support play. It was the drafting as well as some of the carry play coming out. Silo in that 1v1 matchup against Admiral Bulldog with the Brood versus Lone Druid. But we're here with the TI3 Eastern qualifiers. LGD, favorites coming in without a doubt, you'd say. Yeah,
definitely. Especially with their putting their roster back to what works. They've been playing quite well. They did really well in G1 as well. One of the best teams in the world right now. So they are definitely the favorite here for winning this best of 5. But hopefully for Rattlesnake, they can throw some weird things at them. We've seen the Western teams as well do similar things, or at least Alliance has. Played some weird combos, but really just stomping with a bunch of slightly unconventional stuff and just kind of mixing things up. So if they can do the same thing to LGD, there is a chance that they could take the best of 5.
Rattlesnake can definitely, like you say, bring out something which can catch them by surprise or at least be very unpredictable. But LGD are a more predictable team as far as what they've been picking. The Lone Druid, the Darkseer, the Visage, I mean, all these sort of standard heroes. Yeah. If you're a Rattlesnake, what do you think you should be banning against a team like LGD?
Probably really stable things that are flexible. I would love to see the Wisp PA. I think that strat is really good. I guess it works best against a Lone Druid offlane, but I would love to see them do something that's a little weird like that, that they can snowball off of and then absolutely control the game. If they go for standard stuff, I just feel like LGD China is much less likely to make mistakes. Their ganks are going to be flawless. Their team play is going to be flawless. The only other thing that I would say is that the one game where Dreams actually put a lot of trouble on LGD, there was a whole lot of split pushing going on, and I felt like that was one of their weaknesses as well. They were slightly behind that game, but their team fight was pretty good, and the split push just kept coming, and it wasn't until a really late game fatal error from Dreams that allowed LGD to take the win. So maybe some split push heroes, maybe like a Nature's Prophet or something like that with a Shadow Blade. I would like to see maybe some heroes like that as well.
It's definitely something Rattlesnake can do, because they don't pick up hard carries generally. They don't go 4 protect 1 though. Something that Kurt AUI 2000 when he was here is like Rattlesnake. They pick up 3 semi-carries. They had one game like with a Queen of Pain, a Storm Spirit, and a Juggernaut, and each of them farming a different lane. One of them, Queen of Pain in that game, got shut down, but hey, you have 2 other semi-carries, you control the mid-game, you split push, you just out-farm your opponent, so definitely something they can possibly do. We've got ourselves a best of 5. If you had to sort of put money on this, make a prediction, where do you think the end result lies? I guess the obvious way is to say LGD Gaming, but how many games, I guess, do you think Rattlesnake take? Do you even think they take the series?
People have been throwing around 3-1s. I think that's probably most likely what we're going to see, but I would not be too surprised if we saw a 3-2. I would be moderately surprised if Rattlesnake was able to take it, and if they do, I would be really surprised if LGD didn't take at least more than 2 games. So I would say probably 3-1 LGD favored.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if Rattlesnake take it, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a 5-game slugfest. If it goes to that game 5, I definitely say it's 50-50. I don't think you can. I think if it's going to be one-sided, LGD take it. But once you get to a game 5, I don't think after 4 games you can give either team an advantage. We've already seen Rattlesnake bounce back twice. They lose the first game in the winner bracket. They win 2 games in a row, they lose the bracket. So if you get to that long-distance game 5, I think Rattlesnake have a really good shot, but getting to that Game 5 is going to be hard.
And the same thing happened last night. I was quite sure. I was just, okay, Vici Gaming went 1-1 versus Rattlesnake. I was like, Vici's got this. It's going to be Game 3. They'll be able to take it. And then 10 minutes in, 15 minutes, and I was like, whoa, Rattlesnake can take this best of 3, and they totally did. So if they can get to a finals game, could go both ways.
All right, well, we'll give our casters a couple seconds to predict what do they think is going to happen. LD Luminous, what do you want to happen, and what do you think is going to happen?
For me, it's all about LGD. You look at this team, and Brax actually went on Much Ado About Dota. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Great show, by the way. You guys should check it out. But he went on record as saying, LGD, they chose to replace Long DD, not because they thought they couldn't do well at the International. They thought they could still have a decent performance. That wasn't good enough for them. They want to win the whole thing. Anything less than first place is unacceptable. They were actually upset finishing 3rd. And after the run they made in the International 2, you can't really blame them for feeling that way. So I look at LGD, and I look at a team that isn't going to settle just for doing enough. This is a team that wants to win, wants to dominate, and wants to be the very best, which some teams don't. Some teams are content just to get there, to be at the big dance. LGD, they want to win it, and they want to win it convincingly. So I'm going to say LGD 3-0.
I'm also going to throw Brax under the bus, since he also said that Western team would have no chance. So let's leave it.
Well, he could definitely speak to the mentality of LGD.
Sure. But back to the series, I think I'm going to agree with Gods. If it goes long, I'm going to favor Rattlesnake a little bit more. Both teams basically utilize the same set of heroes. Kunkka, Clockwork to a certain extent, Spectre, Visage. They basically use the same hero, but to me, Rattlesnake have a wider pool. They could pull out Doom. They could pull out something like a Draw Ranger. It's something that maybe the LG team may not be as prepared to face against, and maybe the versatility is going to be a little bit wider as well.
And there's Lamb as well. Lamb is kind of the X factor for this team. He's played a safe lane Storm Spirit, one position. He's played the solo mid Magnus, I believe, off lane Magnus. We've seen him play Enchantress in the jungle. This guy's a total wild card, and that's got to be kind of scary for a team like LGD, who, you look at LGD, they prefer an orderly, straightforward game. If you throw them a curveball, if they're kind of forced to react in the heat of the moment, that's not their strength. LGD's strength is a straightforward game where they can just kind of abuse take advantage of their superior team play, their strong mechanics, and good team decision-making. Rattlesnake is a team that could throw them a curveball, but I think LGD, they didn't seem very well prepared for the Alliance, but I feel like they're going to be extremely well prepared for Rattlesnake.
Well, I'm going to say 3-2 Rattlesnake, and see if the see the boys can bring it back.
I was sitting over here thinking, do I say 3-2 Rattlesnake, or do I look to go... to me, it's either 3-2 Rattlesnake or 3-1 LGD, and I was like 50-50 between the two. I don't think there's any 3-2 LGD. Maybe a 3-0 LGD, but if we get a Game 5, it's all Rattlesnake.
Wow, that's pretty...
I don't know.
I feel like you're bad at gambling. I don't know. I'm just...
Gods is waffling as well. Make up your mind, man.
Too much hate. I'm going to go 3-1 LGD. Play it safe.
All right. Team analytics desk going for the safe bet.
Yep. We're here together, so I've got to...
Exactly. This is a joint decision. We share finances. We sleep in the same bed. We're all together here.
Okay. Well, since I'm on Team Swag Cred here, going to go with my man Lumi. He's been on point with some of his predictions. 3-2 Rattlesnake.
Yeah. We'll see.
3-2 Rattlesnake.
Big upset,
though. He's going to throw you under the bus there. But, guys, we'll be taking a break right now. When we come back, it's Game 1 is going to be live in the International 3 Eastern Qualifiers Grand Finals. LGD China up against Rattlesnake. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. LGD China, LGD Gaming facing off against Rattlesnakes, a best-of-5 winner seeded directly into the main event, the big dance in Seattle this August. Loser, they'll be your wildcard team. They'll go up against DD Dota, who are waiting and I'm sure going to be watching. I'm LD. I'm joined by Luminous, my partner in crime. A best-of-5. We hope it goes the distance.
Yeah, this is not a position where you're like, oh yeah, we're going to Seattle. Let's take it easy. Let's play for fun. LG is going all the way. That's kind of what we talked about previously in the game show. And I think Rattlesnake says we are the team that could actually get a for sure invite here, and that's what they're fighting for right here. So should be a very exciting best-of-5.
And you look at this Rattlesnake team formed from sort of the remnants of a couple of top Chinese teams like World Elite. You look at Kabu, of course, coming from eHome in the past. I mean, this is a team that formed from the remnants of some of the top Chinese teams. These guys are experienced. These guys are veterans. They're not going to be feeling overwhelmed or threatened necessarily by LGD. I think they have the confidence. They have the experience. It's going to come down to play and execution. I don't feel like I look at these teams and say, Rattlesnake have to outdraft LGD to win. I think as long as the drafts are relatively close, both teams are skilled enough to take each other down.
Yeah, I'm also afraid for LGD, considering that sometimes they don't have the most stable draft. They like to give away certain heroes that could kind of stab them in the back. We'll see if that's going to happen. It's going to be 5 games, so some of these OP heroes going to sneak through. We see Clockwork and both Lone Drew being banned out, and that means heroes like Bat Rider, Lifestealer, and of course the heroes like we've been talking about, Kunkka, Spectre, Visage. Some of these heroes going to sneak through, so LG's either going to get themselves a Bat or a Lifestealer.
Yeah, something is going to go through, and, well, it won't be a Lifestealer, but like you said, a lot of strong heroes left in the pool. The Bat Rider for LGD, something they've shown they're not afraid to first pick. Darkseer is available as well. A hero that these heroes, we expect them all to go off the board quickly. They'll actually start with someone we did talk about, the Shadow Demon first pick, and I think the main thing with this one is, well, you leave your options fully open. They will be giving away a Bat Rider and a Magnus, which in the past, you go back a month ago, a lot of people would look at this draft and say, LGD, you done screwed up, but I think, given the way teams have been drafting lately, the Chinese teams, they feel like they can deal with heroes like Magnus and Bat.
I completely agree. I feel like Shadow Demon's a decent matchup against Bat Rider, especially protecting carries from the early games. We've seen games where the Shadow Demon's just always on top and making sure that the carries never get lassoed through. And I expect Shadow Demon's going to have a similar impact this game. I'm personally somewhat surprised that Rattlesnake did not pick up Darkseer here. And I think if LG wants to go Darkseer into Spectre, they could set themselves into a very potent early game as well as mid game. Because we've seen in the past how Chinese love to play Spectre gank heavy. You max your dagger by 7, and then you just hunt whenever you could come in for a KS. But instead they're going to go with Nyx Assassin and Anti-Mage. So this is a hero that we haven't seen too often, lately at least.
It's the Sylar Anti-Mage, something that LGD, they're a team that will go to this. Sort of how DK and Burning will go to the Anti-Mage, will go maybe to the Phantom Lancer. When you really need a win in a high-stakes match, heroes like Anti-Mage, safe, strong, late-game options that are just reliable choices, they tend to see more play. We saw that at the International. Anti-Mage